howdy there, pipe pals and gals. Well, greetings, pipe pals. Holy Smoking Pipe Padre with you, and you, and you, and you over there in the back. Yeah, you too. How y'all doing? I am smoking my old Pioneer Calabash. And I'm smoking some Boswell's Boswell Paradise. And I think I shared this with you last time. It's very reminiscent of a thing called Black Velvet that the Briar Patch used to put out. And actually, Black Velvet was one of my favorite go-to blends. Excuse me. Inhaled something the wrong way. Sadly, the Briar Patch is no more. All of their stores have closed, and they have gone the way of the buggy whips. So, but I'm here to wish all of you this is Fat Tuesday. So I'm drinking, you'll never guess what I'm drinking in this, my DD214 Alumni Cup, canteen. It's not coffee, but it's a nice libation. And there's nothing alcoholic in it either, so if you're wondering. Well, it is a beautiful day today. And so it is Fat Tuesday. It's the day before Ash Wednesday. Now, of course, if you're of the Byzantine persuasion, your Lent kind of actually began officially, I guess, Sunday with Forgiveness Vespers. And actually, you began preparing for Lent 2 weeks ago with Cheese Fair Sunday and Meat Fair Sunday. So when people show up tomorrow for Ash Wednesday, if you've been following more of the Byzantine kind of side of things, your Ash Wednesday probably won't be as harsh as it is with other people. So I thought I'd get on here on Fat Tuesday, smoke an old Calabash with you. I saw the movie, actually I think I saw it for the first time. Actually, I didn't even watch it all the way through again. Inglourious Bastards. Forgive me for cussing there. And I guess the villain, the German officer, smokes a Calabash, which is totally impractical. Anybody that knows anything about pipe smoking this is more for, a den, a study, your private man cave. But it's not a pipe that you would just put in your pocket, especially if you're out in the field, like a field officer like this guy is. And, I mean, these things are so delicate and brittle. They would not withstand, they're not military grade, unless somehow he had like a Kevlar gourd that represented the gourd, and some kind of maybe a stainless steel painted like a meerschaum. But yeah, these things are just way too delicate. Those of you who are Calabash aficionados know what I'm talking about. Well, as I look outside, it's an absolutely gorgeous day today. Yes, we are blanketed with snow, thick snow. The sun is out today. Actually, we got a little bit of dusting last night, I think early this morning. This is good stuff. That's delicious. So anyway, the thing is that we've had a lot of snow, don't you know? And so we are, basically on the eve of Lent. And, I always, every year Lent is brings something different, to be sure. But for the most part, I have to say that Lent is a wonderful time of the year. See, is the camera there? Camera is there. Okay, I'll try to talk more to there. So I love Lent. I always have. As I share with people and parishioners from time to time, Lent is the time, many years ago, 30 some odd years ago, that I became Catholic and I entered into the Catholic Church. They took a pipe smoking guy like me and said, okay, we'll take you. It was quite a while ago. Yeah, I haven't had a pipe, obviously, probably since my last video. And today is the 15th? 16th. So I thought, I better try to get a video in this month. Well, I still can, because once Lent starts, there's just all sorts of extra things and unforeseen things that, it goes without fail. I don't know. I'm just trying to think if I ever had a kind of a manageable Lent. I think there was one time in the Army, I think my last year in the Army, my Lent was kind of my Lent was, well, and I'll be honest, I was not going through a good time. I was having some conflict with some people. And I think I remember, I'm ashamed to say this now, I kind of remember that I didn't really challenge myself with that Lent. I think I just, I was in kind of a bit of a dark place, and I think I kind of just said, I don't care. I don't want to say I don't care. But I wasn't scrupulous with trying to, really enter into Lent. I just said, you know what? My life is Lenten enough without adding any more troubles to it. This is a long time ago. This is probably about 20 years ago. 20 some odd years ago. And I just remembered I was not as rigorous with the Lenten fasting and mostly the fasting thing, because I just said, my life was so chaotic. I didn't know where I was going to be from one place to another. And I was having some issues with some of my senior Catholic priests who outranked me, but they were still priests, but they had more on their collar than I had on mine. And they were making life making life hard for me. They were trying to, and I didn't appreciate it. So I think I had a little bit of the only time I think I've ever, come to think of it, that's the only time I think I've ever had a real, not so much bitterness at Lent per se. I know some people don't like Lent at all. They just think, oh, I hate this, it's terrible, giving up my chocolate and all that stuff. Again, that's not the point of Lent at all. But again, there was a sense of maybe a little bit of discouragement on my part. And I just gave into that. And, not to say that I did anything immoral or unethical. It's just that I just wasn't as, in my interior life, I just was like, so. But and then I think then there was one other Lent that I remember was easy. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Easy Lents. I was in my very first parish after I was done being a prison chaplain. Not so good. And I remember, both as a military chaplain, as a prison chaplain, I just did multiple services, maybe four services a day, and then one extra one for just distributing ashes, So for a number of years, just extremely busy, always going, doing. And I remember, I think my first year back in a parish in Elk Grove, because I had me and the pastor, and we had two deacons, and I remember I just did one service on Ash Wednesday, and the rest of the day was like I was twiddling my thumbs. I was like going, this can't be right. I should be doing something, I mean, I think I said an early morning mass, gave out ashes, and I was done. And it's like, I just remember that whole thing really kind of hit me like, wow, this is not normal for me. So I was like, well, okay. I mean, I felt like I kind of had an easy Lent that year. That was probably one of my easiest Lents that I've ever had. Of course, I would say one of my most enjoyable Lents was when my first year as a convert, going through and being received in the church. That was, I think, I just remember a lot of joy that year. And I would have to say, though, now going back to the military, I was in Germany for 3 years, and it was right after I got back from Bosnia, my first year, and I got to be the chaplain of the chapel, on the base. And I remember I just got so excited about that year. My last year, it went from really great to really not so great. But that first year, I was the pastor, rector of the base chapel. I found a couple of nice parishioners, and we decorated the church. I might even have some, I don't know if oh gosh, I wonder if I still have those pictures somewhere. I'd have to dig them out. But I sure had it was just it just really brought a lot of joy to my heart. Because, when you're kind of the main guy, you get to kind of call some of the shots and say, well, I want to do things this way this year, So anyway, it was just a lot of fun. And I just remember kind of really that first year, as opposed to my last year, I just threw my heart and soul into it. And I just was wonderful. So I really felt that springtime. I guess I was in Germany, and we'd only had a couple of snows that year. And so spring kind of came a little early. Even though it was still cold, you could still see the trees beginning to bud, and it's just beautiful. So yeah, that was really wonderful. And I wouldn't say, and again, there were other Lents that were okay. They were good, but they were challenging. One dear friend of mine, we always say, you plan your Lent, and then God shows up on Ash Wednesday with a Lent that he wants you to do. We make plans and God smiles. So, I remember one time, oh boy, I used to go say Mass in Napa, beautiful place, Napa, and little Catholic school up there. And so my friend was coming to, I think, pick me up or whatever, and we were going in their Sienna minivan, and the thing kept having flat tire issues. And I was supposed to be up there so I can say Mass, and it seemed like almost every other 10 miles we had to stop and check the tires to make sure that the little tire light warning was going on and on. I was like, oh, I mean, you weren't, you get up on Ash Wednesday, and all I can say from my past experiences is just kind of hold on, because it's coming. You just don't know what's coming. That's all. I mean, and it's all good. It's all good, but sometimes Lent is, you got to remember it's I mean, what is it? I don't know if it's in Isaiah or whatever, but God says, this is the fasting that I desire, sometimes we kind of try to go through the motions, the externals, and then don't get me wrong, the externals are important. They absolutely are, but sometimes God thinks that he knows what we need long before we know what we need. So anyway, all I was just saying is that sometimes Lent is a real adventure. And sometimes it's, again, but I do think if you really enter into Lent in a spirit of humility and acceptance, you can't but be blessed. It's not a negative. I just wrote that a little while ago on my little pastor's corner for this coming weekend, the first Sunday of Lent, because I know a lot of people. I remember I was always kind of a little bit shocked and saddened when I would see people and they'd talk how they'd just say how they just detested, Lent and everything. Now again, that 1 year, I'll never forget, it was that 1 year that and again, I wasn't mean or angry or upset. I guess I was very, very saddened and depressed because I felt that any effort that I made was going to be quashed, and I just, I hate to say it, but I let those people, bring me down, and I shouldn't have done that. Now, we all learn from our mistakes, and that was one. And basically what I'm talking about is I just didn't adhere to the fasting regulations, which aren't that much as a Catholic. Byzantine Catholics, on the other hand, woo, yeah, betcha. That's pretty extreme. I mean, it's good. It's good discipline. It's good discipline. It's like taking a cold shower every morning. You discipline yourself, and then you begin to reap the rewards. But in the first part of it, it's not pleasant. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun. But once you acquire a hard-won discipline, then you appreciate it, and it makes sense to you. You hold on to it like a very valuable, rare tool that you can use, And that's what I think Lent is all about. So anyway, I don't know if you celebrate Lent and you go through the great 40 days of Lent, plus a few Sundays, and enjoy it, because it is. I look at it this way. When Jesus went out into the desert, he wasn't trying to punish himself. He doesn't need to punish himself. But he did need to grow strong in his humanity, in his physicalness, because, let's face it, fasting does require you have to learn how to fast. It's not easy. Now, like I said, several years ago, I lost an awful lot of weight by intermittent fasting. And it was a good thing for me. I need it. And maybe I can embrace that again this year as well. Kind of start a new thing. I gave up the processed sugars and wheat. No wheat in almost a month and a half now. No bread, no cookies, no pies, no cakes. And I don't really miss it that much. But I do know that when I go into Lent and I try to, abstain from the meat and the dairy, which I love, and my coffee, those three things, I do get a hankering for bread. Ugh. Bread is it's right up there next to alcohol. Well, in fact, isn't beer liquid bread in some ways? Just saying. Anyway, so I love bread, but I know that it's just not good for me. And I think my digestive system's gotten a little bit better in the month and a half that I haven't had any bread or, again, cookies or cakes or pastas or croissants and all that kind of stuff. So I think it has a positive benefit, but again, you have to kind of be consistent, and sometimes it's so easy to give yourself permission to not be consistent. At least it is for me. There's a lot of smoke in here. Wow, that was As you can see, this pipe really puts out an awful lot of smoke. An awful lot of smoke. Anyway, so I just wanted to get on here and just share a few thoughts and feelings, kind of just do my little monthly check-in with y'all, those of you who follow my channel, and thank you. I don't say thank you enough. Maybe I should thank most of my subscribers and the people that, like to watch these little pipe videos. One of the sad things I have to say about not having a tinderbox or a briar patch in the neighborhood, or at least a place where you can go to service pipes, to clean them up and polish them up. This has not been polished up in probably decades. But I bet you somebody who knew how to do that correctly could just make this thing a jewel. It is a jewel, but it's a little bit beat up right now. I remember that Ron Michelson, who owned the Briar Patch before he retired, I'd always go in and talk with him when he wasn't too busy. But one time he said, I could actually get you a real Dunhill calabash if you really wanted one. And I said, well, I'm interested, but it never went beyond that. So that was one of the things that I kind of regret, because I wish I had gotten an actual Dunhill calabash. I guess I could find one on the internet probably, but I don't know. Yeah, I think the only two pipes that I think I would really like to get is a Dunhill black dress pipe. Just a gleaming black Dunhill dress pipe. I don't know if they even make them anymore. I don't know, are they called dress pipes? I think that's what they're called. Old Legacy Dot, our Dunhill UK man, or Legacy Dot man. If you're watching this by any chance and you know what I'm talking about, Chris, if you're still in the neighborhood, and hey, you might even have one you might want to sell me. I don't know. But anyway, I'd like to get I guess it's called a dress pipe. And they're gleaming black, and they're just, wow, they're beautiful. Yeah, and maybe an actual Dunhill calabash. Well, maybe someday. But then again, I don't need one. But it would be nice to have, but I don't need it. But anyway, so... See, I've talked about the weather. I've talked about my pipe tobacco I'm puffing on today. Talked about Lent. Just life goes on. We had the power go out 2 nights ago. And one of the things that I have not really had a lot of time for, because once you get into it, for me at least, I can figure most things out, but it takes time. And one of the things is all these little smart speakers. Maybe you can see one back there. Yeah, there's the one back there. And I have a Sonos surround sound, which really wasn't working. I just hooked them up and turned them on, and sometimes I thought they were working. I'd go, oh, is that a little sound over there? It was like, not really. And so I wasn't very happy with it, but I just didn't have time to fiddle with it. So Saturday night, the power went off. And it didn't come back on till, in the small hours of Sunday morning. And I noticed that when I got back to, after the masses, that the speakers didn't work at all. And I thought, oh, great. They probably got fried. I was just like, oh, no. Because it's not, it's a Sonos surround sound. They're not cheap. And I was just afraid that somehow they got fried when the power went back on. Because I remember it was like 4:30 in the morning. And I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, bam, the lights came back on. And man, they came on with a vengeance. And it's kind of like, it woke me up. And I went, oh, that really kind of came on pretty hard. So anyway, I thought, oh, old surround sound speakers were fried. So I spent almost 8 hours finally figuring out, because I guess what happens is sometimes when these things happen, they reset your TV and your other appliances to basically factory resets or whatever. Long story short, I wasn't getting any sound out of the surround sound speakers. So I started trying to do some research and troubleshooting, and about the third time was the charm, and finally I figured it out. It was really simple, but it just took me it just kind of trial and error. That's what a lot of these things boil down to, trial and error. And I have to tell you though, even though I spent almost 8 hours, about 7.5 hours trying to get this thing back up and running, and I finally did, Sunday afternoon about 3:30. No, I'm sorry, about 8:30. 7:30, I remember. Yeah, 7:30. I was like, man. Because I started around 12, 1, 12, whatever, in the afternoon. About 1, actually, when I got home. And, but I can tell you now, I have surround sound. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It was like, where did these speakers come from? Because I finally set them up right. There's a whole process that you do in the Sonos app, and it does most of the work, the heavy lifting for you. But and I've figured out how to factory reset the speakers, so they were factory reset. But I'll tell you what, when I watch these action movies now, it's like, whoa, where did that sound come from? It's like literally being in live and in person sometimes. Sometimes it's like, whoa. And it's kind of delightful because, you'll hear the thunder roar if there's a winter scene or a winter, rainy, stormy, and you'll hear the thunder crack over here, and then you'll hear the echo over there, and it's like, whoa, that's so cool. You'll see the jet, flying off the aircraft carrier, and it flies right by one of your, your right ear, your left ear. It's like, wow. And so I have to say that even though it was a real pain in the gluteus maximus to have to spend that time, trying to fiddle with this thing and figure it out, it was so cool, finally getting real surround sound, because I hadn't really set it up properly when I moved up here. I just plugged them in and turned them on, and I thought, okay. And I always wondered how come I don't hear anything out of these surround sound speakers? And now I know why, because I hadn't really, took the time to really do it right. And just plugging them in and just kind of setting them in your room. There's a little more to it. But once I did all that, it was kind of I reaped a little bit of a reward for, that time I spent in it. So it was like, okay, actually now it's like, wow. I don't even think I've ever heard it. And I bought these things like 5 years ago, and in my last parish, and I was trying to get the surround sound, and every now and then I go, I think I hear something out of that speaker, But then it just turned out that, I was like, well, maybe not, So it never really worked the way it was supposed to. So now it does, and it's awesome. It's like really, really awesome. In fact, I have to kind of make sure I turn it down, because people, if they heard like an explosion through this thing, it sounds so much like a real explosion. Somebody might think that there's something, something really bad happening in the rectory, So it's like, I better, kind of, so it's like, kind of like on one hand, you get this really nice, surround sound, but then you realize, well, yeah, but it can maybe sound a little too, like there was a couple of movies I was watching yesterday, I can't remember which ones now, but they heard like gunshots, and it sounded just like a real gunshot, and I'm going, whoa, I'm thinking, oh, people might be playing with guns up here or something, and I'm shooting them in my room or something. Those were the days, Not anymore. So anyway, I don't know why I told you that, but it was just a little personal thing there. Sometimes life can, be a little bit irritating. And we also had our furnace replaced last week. And 24 hours into it, it's a hydroponic heating system. So it's a liquid, heating system. So unfortunately, one of the pipes sprung a leak, and so we had no power, no heat for 2 days, and it got a little cool in here. I will say that. So I hope you're having a great day today, great evening, and I hope you have a truly wonderful and blessed and holy Lent. And we will see you next month sometime in another video, unless I have something really earth-shaking to say, and or some new wrinkle in our body politic that just gets to me where I I have to say something, I have to vent. But life goes on. And again, so thank you for watching. Light up your world and light up your pipe. See you now. Take care.